There is absolutely nothing better than a hot pot of soup. And this pot is going to actually serve more than one day, and maybe a dinner, two dinners, and a lunch. This week, we are working on three healthy and delicious meals. And you know what? Those three healthy and delicious meals are going to be plant based. And I'm going to give you a look at the grocery shop as well as some ideas of things that we can do with items that we purchased. And we're going to cook three dinners. How about that? So, all of that is going to be a part of today's show. Let's talk about what you're going to be cooking this week. And my plan is to give you three healthy, easy, and delicious weeknight meals that are going to be plant-based. How about that? So we're going to be working through that. Now, I'm going to turn you just a little bit so you can see all of the goodies that I have here. Now, I promised that it was going to be reasonable cost, that we would be able to work on our budgets as well as be able to stay healthy and to provide delicious meals for our family. So what I first did was that I decided, okay, what are we cooking for this week? And then went through, developed a grocery list, and also made the order for what I needed. My effort was to stay under $120, which I was able to do. Woohoo! And so this worked out very well. But that meant that I had to have some things in the pantry ready to go, or in the freezer ready to go. So let's see what we've got here that I really did need to pick up extras of. What I first did was that I decided, okay, what are we cooking for this week? And then went through, developed a grocery list, and also made the order for what I needed. My effort was to stay under $120, which I was able to do. Woohoo! And so this worked out very well. But that meant that I had to have some things in the pantry ready to go, or in the freezer ready to go. So let's see what we've got here that I really did need to pick up extras of. First, I'm taking you over to our petite diced tomatoes. I have just a few cans of those because I had a few already in the pantry, and I knew I'm going to go through those very quickly this week. And I'm hoping to maybe even have a couple of cans left over for next week. I also picked up 4 boxes of vegetable stock to have on hand. Now, if I have time, then I will make my own vegetable stock. But just in case, we're not going to let that hang us up. We're going to make sure that we have vegetable stock on the shelf ready to go because we want no excuses for our healthy meals. We want to be able to get those on the table, have them ready for our family, and be able to relax when it's all over. I also like fire roasted diced tomatoes, and they just add a special flavor to your plant based meals. And even if you decide to have some type of protein on the side, which is totally up to you, and certainly if you have children, you may opt to do that. But for us, we're going to be sticking with it. And I wanted some nice flavor, but I also wanted to keep things healthy. I also picked up 2 large cans of petite diced tomatoes because when I'm making large batches of soups, then I knew I was going to need heavier cans, larger cans. In addition to that, I picked up some better than bouillon vegetable base. And you know what? It just adds that special touch to whatever it is that you're preparing. So if you add water, then you know you can add your better than bouillon. It will bring the flavor up. And sometimes, even if you're not able to find vegetable stock, you may be able to get vegetable broth on sale. Then you can always kick up the flavor with the better than bouillon vegetable base. And now these are small bottles, and I think I'm going to try to make a run to Costco to see if I can find a larger bottle. I also picked up a container of probiotic organic whole milk yogurt. And the reason for that is probably not what you think. I am actually going to be using it to make some sourdough bread, and we're going to be using this yogurt for that. I also picked up some additional long grain brown rice, and that was because I was running low. The jar was just about empty, so I knew it needed to be refilled. I picked up green beans, corn. Those are just base items that when you have these types of things on your pantry shelves, you can always put together a good meal, and it's not hard to do. If you can see, I must have been running low on black pepper because I went for the gigantic 6-ounce McCormick pure ground black pepper. McCormick has the best pepper, I think, on the planet. But, that's just my opinion. But McCormick is usually my go-to black pepper. I also picked up some more tomato paste. I like the tomato paste in the tube because of the fact that it's just so much more convenient and easy to use. I needed a little bit of spring onions, so I picked those up, as well as I wanted some tri-colored beans because I think we might do a vegetarian bean chili. So let's have that as well. I was low on the shelf with my seasoned Italian green beans that I really love. So I got those and they're ready to go as well. The big guy loves his coffee and he also loves his cream. And he happens to like the Great Value French vanilla. And so I picked up 3 of those so I don't have to worry about those for quite a while. I also picked up some, let me get to it back here. I picked up some zesty Italian dressing. And sometimes the zesty Italian dressing is just nice to have extra. If I have to fix protein, I like to say chicken. I like to give it a night in some zesty Italian overnight and then put it under the broiler because it adds such great flavor. I also picked up some additional juices. I've got some cranberry juice and the big guy likes his tomato juice, so I've got cranberry juice. I also have some potatoes that I'm going to be using this week. And when you have regular fresh potatoes, you want to use those as much as possible because you don't want them to sit on the shelf and go bad. So that is this week and maybe even into next week's grocery shop. When you have a week of plant-based cooking, one thing to make sure that you keep in mind is that the weekend is the perfect time to do your preparation. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Get anything chopped and diced that you think you might need. Things like your celery, things like carrots, things like you can even chop your cabbage. You might even cut up your squashes. You can slice up your fruits. All of those things you can have already prepared. And it puts you ahead of the game when it's time to cook. I even like very often to go ahead and do the preparation, put it into a container, seal it with some water, put the top on it, and put it into the freezer. That way I can just pop it out, and if I'm doing a soup, I put the whole thing in, and we're ready to go. So remember, preparation is key. We're putting together today a vegetarian minestrone soup. And so we're starting with one entire box of vegetable stock. And that's going to take the place for our oil. So there's going to be no oil whatsoever. Our salt that's going to be added, or at least not much anyway, into this soup. So we're starting with a 32-ounce box of stock. So let's get that in. And we're going to get that bubbling because we want that to be ready to go. So this is one box of vegetable stock. Now, if you find later in your tasting, once all the vegetables get in, that you need to add just a little bit more vegetable flavor, you're probably going to want a little bit more liquid. You may decide to add 2 boxes depending upon how many people you're serving. All of that's important. And I like my soup a little soupier, so I'll probably add about another half box of vegetable stock. But you'll see that as we're moving along. One entire box of vegetable stock, and that's going to take the place for our oil. So there's going to be no oil whatsoever. Our salt that's going to be added, or at least not much anyway. All right, I decided to go ahead and put in a second box, and the reason of the vegetable stock, and the reason for that is because I know the big guy's going to want that soupier soup rather than a stewy soup. So I'm going to put in just about all of this box. There we go. All of that box. So that's 2 boxes of vegetable stock. Next, I'm going to add in the trifecta of vegetables. I've got onions, carrots, and celery. I'm going to put those in as well. And all those in. We want all of that to come up to a good boil. Now, for my minestrone soup, and this is, some people call it, a good minestrone soup is basically came from Italy. And what they do is that they take whatever vegetables are left over that need to be used, and they're placed into the soup. And so we're going to be using some potatoes that we diced. So those are in, and that's about 2 cups of potatoes. That's going to give it a very hearty taste, as well as we're going to need 2 cans, and these are 2 14.5 ounce cans. I'm going to add 2 of those of diced tomatoes. That's 1. And if you like less tomato, you can certainly only put in 1, but we like tomatoes, so because of that, I'm adding in 2 cans. Okay, there we go. There's our second can. I'm also going to add in some tomato paste. And let me get my tube out. I like it. It's by Cento, and it comes in a nice tube. So I can just squish some in there, and that's going to add a little body to the soup. So let me get my scissors. Put a hole in here. Okay, there we go. Give our soup, I'm going to do it on the spurtle so you can see. I'm putting in, that's about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste that I'm going to add to our mix. Now this is going to need to really come up to a good hot boil. All right, so I'll put my top on this, and we're going to go ahead and add the beans. I have 2 cans of beans. You can decide what type of beans you like. Typically, the Italians use more of a white bean. I didn't have any white beans, so I'm using my pinto beans, and that's going to work. That's going to be delicious for our soup. So whatever kind of beans you have that your family likes, and I would say it would be just about anything other than black beans. You don't usually put black beans into a minestrone soup, but you could have a mixture of brown and white beans or cannelli beans. You could mix them and have them in the soup. So here we've got, you can see how hearty this is already. And now we're going to start to add some flavoring. So let's get that in. I've got my spoons. This is going to come together very quickly. You can see already in less than 5 minutes, we've already put just about everything into this soup. Now, I have a new jar of minced garlic. I like to be able to keep it fast and simple. That's the only way to have a quick, weeknight, easy, and delicious meal, is to have options that you can use quickly. So I keep my garlic. You can get it at Costco. It's a nice large one. This one I just happened to get from Walmart. And I'm going to put in a heaping tablespoon or two of garlic because that's the Italian way. You got to have that garlic. Okay. And if I taste it and I need more, then I can do that. I'm going to put in some of my house seasoning, which you know my house seasoning is a combination of pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, even though we have onions in there. But we're going to want to add in at least 2 heaping teaspoons of our house seasoning. So that's in. And I have the spoon available should I need to come back and do a little additional seasoning toward the end. Now all of this is going to need to cook down. The one thing that I'm going to add just a tiny pinch of, I just want a hint of it, is rosemary. Just a hint. Now everyone doesn't like rosemary. I get it. You see, I've just got a little tiny bit on my hand, and that's because I promise you, you're not going to want a lot of rosemary because you don't want that rosemary to take over your soup. And you know, everyone doesn't like it, and so that's one of those tastes you just have to develop. So there's our soup all together. I'm going to add in some cayenne, just a little cayenne pepper, or you could use hot sauce if you like. And I think I have more control over the heat if I use cayenne, cayenne pepper, just a little. 1, 2, 3. 3 shakes. It's not to be hot, it's to have good seasoning. Now you notice, no oils, no sugar, no excess salt. Now, as this starts to boil, then I'll be able to taste it and determine at that point if I need to add any vegetable bouillon base. I may want to add a little bit of that in. So I'm going to just give it a quick taste at this point. It tastes pretty good and not too much heat. So I'm going to turn it up a notch because I do want it to boil. And I'm going to get things cleaned up because before you know it, this soup is going to be ready and your family is going to love it. If your effort is to get as many vegetables as you possibly can into your family each day, then when you put together a vegetable soup like this, you're going to try to find all those good vegetables that you may have lurking in your refrigerator, and you're going to toss them in. So if you have some mixed vegetables, you could certainly add those. You know what I have? I have some broccoli slaw. I love broccoli slaw, and I like it by itself, but I also like it as far as being able to add it into my soup. So I'm going to add in several handfuls of broccoli slaw into our soup. Big handful. Give it a stir. And that's just going to add, number one, it's going to heighten the vegetable count. And number two, this soup will be absolutely delicious. And it's going to be filling. And like I said, your family is going to be better off for it. I'm giving our soup a really good stir because I don't want it to stick on the bottom. And I have the heat pretty high. Now, I still have about an hour and a half before dinner. And once this starts to bubble, then I'll just put it on simmer and let it continue to boil until just before dinner time. So I still have just a little bit of that broccoli slaw left. And I'm going to close it up very nicely. And we're going to use it another night in another recipe. Okay, guys, I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of my vegetable base. And that's to just kick up that flavor as well. I'm going to give all of that a good stir. That's one. We'll put in one more. That's a heaping one, yes, I know. But 2 heaping teaspoons of vegetable base. Now I'm going to put this on a 4, and I'm going to let this just come to a boil and cook until time for dinner. You could certainly do it in a slow cooker or even in your Instapot. But I've got time, so we're doing it right here on the stove. I love healthy and delicious weeknight meals. And you know, when you can come in, whether you work in the home, outside of the home, whatever the case may be, but when you can put those recipes together quickly and do them in such a way that they are nutritious for your family, then that is exactly what you want to be able to do. And that's what we're going to be working on for several weeks. And each week, I'm going to give you 3 more that we're going to add to our repertoire of plant-based ideas. And if you want something else on an extra night, you can certainly do that. Or you might want to supplement for the rest of your family in case they are not totally plant-based. And that's a decision you have to think about. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Oh, our soup has started to bubble and it is coming together. You know, the thing about soup is that the longer you let it cook, the better it gets. When you're the home cook, you have the advantage of being able to taste the dish along the way. And that's not just an advantage, that's necessary because you want to know what your meal is going to taste like before you sit these bowls or plates in front of your family. So remember, tasting is necessary. A very good habit to get into when you're preparing your plant based meals, or maybe those that aren't necessarily plant based. You want to be able to have a tray, put all of your necessary items on that tray so you have easy access. And it saves the time of running around trying to find whatever it is. I like to be able to do this in advance earlier in the week. So when that particular day comes, I just need to go to the tray and everything I need is right there. You'll notice that most of the items that you're looking at on this particular tray are things that require refrigerating. When you're planning a plant-based diet, number one, you have to think about what it is that you need to have in your kitchen and that you need to keep in your kitchen ready to go. When you want to change up the flavors or you want to add that little special touch that you might want to allow your family to experience. Now, today, we're going to be cooking up some chow mein. And this is going to be chow mein, but without the noodles. It's going to be totally vegetable, but we're going to whip up a little sauce over here that we can put over our chow mein vegetables. And then we're going to be ready for dinner. 10 minutes. That's all you need. Let's get it done. Now, like I said, we're going to be putting together a chow mein. So I have all of the ingredients right here on my little tray so that I can put them quickly into this jar, shake it up, and it's going to be ready to go. All right, I'm going to start first. This is oyster sauce, and that's going to be the first thing that I'm going to put in, and I'm really going to eyeball it. And if I find that there's something that I need to do additional, I'll take care of that. But I'm going to put in about a quarter of a cup of oyster sauce. Now I know this is going to be a little more than what we really need. But then that way, if the big guy needs a little extra sauce, he'll have it. Okay, oyster sauce, quarter of a cup. I'm going to add, in place of soy, I'm going to use Bragg's amino acids, liquid aminos. So I'm going to add in about a quarter cup of Bragg's. Okay, that's in. I'm going to add in just a touch. Sesame oil goes a long way. So you do not want to overdo the sesame oil. So I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shakes for now. And if we need just a touch more later, we can always add more, but we can't take that away. So just a touch of sesame oil. Now I have some chili garlic sauce, and it's just a little bit spicy. So if you decide that you want to add this in, proceed with caution. Taste it before you put it into your sauce, so you'll know what you're adding. So it's a little chili, a little hot, but lots of garlic. And technically, if you decide you don't want to use the chili garlic sauce, or you just want a tiny bit, then you can certainly add in a nice tablespoon of minced garlic, and then add in just a touch of the chili garlic sauce. Let me get a spoon. Now, this is our minced garlic that we've been using. And for those of you who are going to be sticking with that plant-based diet, notice I'm putting in 1 tablespoon of the minced garlic. And I'm going to flip that spoon around. And you'll see it has a little flat side. I'm going to get just enough. You'll see right there on the end. That's all of the chili garlic sauce that I'm going to put in. Just that little bit. So I'm going to add about a half tablespoon of bean paste. This is a very concentrated sauce. Now, if I weren't trying to eliminate the sugar, I could certainly add some hoisin, which would be really good. But I'm trying to eliminate that sugar. Now, we could add date sugar, but it just so happens that I don't have date powder. And so we're just going to take it as is. I gave my sauce a little taste, and it really was really concentrated. So I opted to put in about a half cup of water. So I'm going to give that a good stir, and then I know it will be ready to use. Now, once I get the vegetables ready, I'm going to spoon and drizzle a little bit of this sauce over the vegetables. I'm not just going to pour this container in. I'm going to keep this container in the refrigerator, so just in case I have another Asian night, then I can use my sauce. I really thought our sauce needed just a little more kicking up. And I happened to look over and saw that I had quite a few oranges. So I thought I'd take an orange, cut it up, and squeeze that juice into the sauce. Because since I didn't have the date powder and didn't want to use regular sugar or even honey, I didn't have hoisin, that my option is going to be to use some orange juice. You know, oranges are big in the Asian world. Okay, we need a nice hot pot. So I'm going to turn the heat on, get it nice and sizzling. We're going to add about a cup of vegetable stock so that's going to take the place of our oil. No oil. And in this case, we're going to have just a little bit of salt, but that's only because some of the sauces that we're using are already salty. So let me get my cup, and we're going to add that stock. Okay, want that going. Now, you had already prepped your veggies, so we already have our celery. We're going to throw that in. I'm going to pour some of the liquid off, just a little. Okay, so we're going to add in the veggies. This is our celery, our onions, our carrots. All of those are going to go in. And then our cabbage. And we'll look at the balance and decide if we need to add more. I'm thinking I'll go ahead and add it all. And that takes care of what we had prepped. Got our spurtle. Give it a good stir so it gets into that broth. And it also breaks up the cabbage just a bit. "10 minutes or less. Let that come up to temperature. I'm going to sprinkle in just a little black pepper. You know I love McCormick's. About a teaspoon. Going to give our sauce a shake. I'm just going to add a little bit of the sauce. Your veggies. So we already have our celery. We're going to throw that in. I'm going to pour some of the liquid off, just a little. Okay, so we're going to add in the veggies. This is our celery, our onions, our carrots. All of those are going to go in. And then our cabbage. And we'll look at the balance and decide if we need to add more. I'm thinking I'll go ahead and add it all. And that takes care of what we had prepped. Got our spurtle. Give it a good stir so it gets into that broth. And it also breaks up the cabbage just a bit. 10 minutes or less. Let that come up to temperature. I'm going to sprinkle in just a little black pepper. You know I love McCormick's. About a teaspoon. Going to give our sauce a shake. We're just going to add a little bit of the sauce. Our rice is heating up. Bit of water. Our veggies have cooked down to the point that they're still just a tiny bit crispy, and I like that. I like to be able to have just a little bit of bite to my vegetables. It's nice and hot, so I'm going to give it a little taste to make sure that the flavors are where I want it, and then I'm going to serve it up. Promised you 3 delicious dishes for this week. We started with a vegetable minestrone soup. We went from there to a little Asian flair with a chow mein. And we're ending the week on the big salad with 2 different types. One being a very traditional salad for those who like the traditional, and one for those of you who like a little fruitier flavor, then we've given you cranberry, pear, pecan salad on as well. So I hope that you will enjoy your week of meals. I hope you will certainly find something that works for your family. I have had a wonderful time having you right here in the kitchen. So come back next week, because in the kitchen we're going to have 3 more plant-based meals right here in the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme.